Good afternoon, everyone. We are so happy that you joined us and welcome to our Saturday afternoon spotlight, focusing on nonprofit and profit. Today we have Entset and Sophie joining us. If you had the opportunity to read the bios, wonderful. And if you did not, I'm going to go ahead and do a brief recap. So I'm going to start with Entset. My name is Entset Tadesse. I received a Bachelor of Science Health with a concentration in community health from Towson University. My passion is in international development through health and education programs. I have been working in international development and program implementation for the past 4 years. I have worked for nonprofits and consultant firms where I manage Department of State and USAID programs with a focus in health and education. I am currently working for a nonprofit where I manage a program for the Department of State in Pakistan. My portfolio includes education and professional development programs for disadvantaged youth in Pakistan with a total worth over 15 million. Thank you so much, Entset, for joining us here today, and we are happy to have you. Next, I will introduce our next speaker, Miss Sophie Adjogblé. My name is Sophie Adjogblé. I received an honors Bachelor of Commerce with an option in management, cum laude, from the Tilford School of Management at the University of Ottawa. I am a young professional who is inspired to help people's projects and businesses. I am a motivated and result-oriented professional with outstanding skills in project management, and I possess knowledge and experience spanning across various business fields such as human resources, planning, operations, staffing, and finance. My goal is to truly help others be the best version of themselves, whether it is in their personal life or in their professional life. Thank you so much, Sophie, for joining us. So we are just gonna go ahead and jump right in. We have an interesting lineup for you all, and we're gonna discuss their experiences, their journeys, their passions, purpose, and profession. So, Entset, we're gonna start with you. What do you consider to be your favorite and least favorite part of your job and or industry?
Sure. I have so many. I would say for my favorite, it's making an impact. I got into international development because I really wanted to make a change in the world and especially in developing nations. So my favorite part is actually having the impact on the people internationally and actually seeing the work. I love that, and I must say that we also have some great people that work administratively with the program implementation. So I would say that's another favorite part of mine is my colleagues, my peers, my superiors. So that's another favorite, and so my not so favorite is that um, there's a resistance to change within the leadership. This field has been around for a long time now, and uh, there's kind of like a routine of what is done, and there's a resistance to changing that routine. And I would like to see some change, but leadership is likes how it is, or for money or political reasons, it's not able to make an impact. And another not so favorite is that once I got into the field, I understood how much diplomacy and politics goes into the work. Although this is a humanitarian and I'm in international development, although it's a humanitarian field, the budget is in accordance to the political desire or interest. So programs are heavily funded where's the political need. And then when there isn't a political need, it's not as well budgeted or funded. And I understand there's no such thing as like altruistic, there is an exchange or an investment of return. So the investment is going to go where it's most needed. So those two are my least fave, but then there's some great things too.
Wonderful. I mean, I completely understand that things look one way from the outside and they're completely different from the inside in. So thank you for the work that you do and for being a part of the mission that you support. Sophie, what do you consider to be your favorite and least favorite part of your job?
Wow. So I will start with my favorite part. Well, right now I'm in the HR field, and especially in my job because I have to specify that my environment is basically in one of the big four, so KPMG. So the way we manage HR will be a little bit different for like a small enterprise or in the public sector. So what I like about my current job is basically be able to use all my analysis skills to really advise people on different HR topics to better actually understand what is our benefits or service plan. And another part also, in my role, I'm able to really really put myself out there and try to improve all our processes. So there's a lot of confidence because I became really an expert manual of different HR field. So that's why I like about my job because but even though I do the job day to day, I'm able to improve our processes to be more efficient. And another uh, point also why I like what I like about my job is I'm able to really develop my problem skills. Um, HR is basically is it says in the name is a human. We deal with human, and human are complex. So every day, the way I will address a situation will be totally different with another person, but there can be there's some nuances. So every day I'm able to reevaluate the way I assess some issues. So that's what I like about this job because every day it's different. And of course, like I said, now I'm becoming more expert, so I'm really more comfortable when we talk about HR topics because I face different situation where I have to really reevaluate and rethink how we can assess it. Um, the other part, my least favorite part, like I said, it's a one of big four. So I'm from in my current job, I have to assign more than 5,000 employees and partners. So it's it can be quite stressful because, like I said, it's a big corporation. And then for me, I have to basically advise all the employees in Canada, whether it's in English and French. So be able to jungle to two different language, it can be stressful. And also you have to be comfortable with changes because we can constantly process to better serve our clientele. So of course, if you're not comfortable to face changes, it can be again stressful. And also, I won't say not my favorite part, but what is one of the challenge with my job is basically to multitask. Multitasking is it's a skill where it's a ongoing learning. You don't go to school to multitask every day. Every day we multitask, but be able to really organize my work in order to be more productive. It really challenge myself to reevaluate everything from the beginning. So basically, it's really a must to have a good organization skills to be able to jungle everything.
That's, I mean, as someone that was equally in the HR in this discipline and industry, I completely
Yeah,
secondly motion everything that you said. No
yeah,
day is ever the same. Just because you use one process today and it worked does not mean it's going to work tomorrow.
exactly.
So I hear you. And talking about management and balance and organization, how do you, Sophie, this question is going to start with you. How do you
Yeah.
balance your passions, your purpose, and your profession? How do you find that management line in juggling everything?
Um, to be honest, it took me a time to think about it. I'm gonna be really transparent with you guys. I think when we think about balance, we need to think about what triggers the balance. And for me, for instance, what triggers my balance is basically it can be my mental state, my physical state, my financial state. Because if I'm not able to address that, I cannot even think about trying to find a balance to make sure I can find strategies to focus to find a balance on my passion, my purpose, and my profession. So saying that, I think the way for me, I try to balance everything and make sure I have a good health hygiene. Because right now, of course, with the COVID-19, we're all working from home. But before the COVID-19, like me, my job is as a flexible work. So I've been working from home. So I had to make sure I had a good routine. Like I make sure I have the way I work, the way I assess my job. Am I the economic aspect of it? Am I eating a good breakfast in the morning? Like everything is gonna trigger the balance, whether or not you like it or not. It's gonna trigger it, right? So for me, it's really important for me to really go really like deeper than just find a balance. Me see what triggers my balance, and from there I'm able to find strategies to make sure, okay, what can I do to it? So, like I said, for me, one is to have a good hygiene, health hygiene, to know my boundaries, whether it's at work, whether it's my personal life or social life, um, and organize my day, so or my week. So basically, making a plan ahead or making time my own schedule to get maybe I'll put like 30 minutes to like go jogging or like work on just brainstorming idea in my head. But I think the key thing on finding balance for the 3P technically, it's basically understand what's triggering your balance. And from there, it's easier to make sure you can have strategies for that.
No, I definitely agree. I mean, in order to do what you want to do, you need to know what you need to do. And what you
Exactly.
need to do is take care of you. So
Exactly.
it's
Yeah.
definitely,
So basically, it's really understand yourself and really understand. Okay, are you at peace with yourself? Like, what are you sure? What are your values? Are you making sure that your action match your values? And from there, if this is like it's check, well, you can address it. What strategy I can put to make sure I have a balance in every aspect of my life. So.
no, I completely understand and I agree. So, Henset, how do you balance your passions, your purpose, and your profession?
You know, similar to Sophie, it took me a while. I would say maybe a year and a half into my career. It got to there because, you know, when you first start out in an industry, regardless of like your education or your internships or whatever experience, it takes time to adapt to it and to really understand the rules of engagement and really the soft skills that you need. There's the technical stuff that you gain from school, but a lot of like the managing up, the boundaries, the small stuff that they don't teach you in school, it takes a while to get into that. So I would say that um, what helps me maintain balance is being very introspective of where I am, what I'm good at, what I'm lacking, so that I can give myself that piece of this is what I need to work on, and that I actively have a plan. And then I, a second thing is that I actively seek to cultivate joy. So whether that is uh, just be surrounding myself with like happy things. So I listen to jazz music. I try to read books a lot. I will exercise. I actually got into fitness and exercising because my job was very stressful. Um, Other people might have done it for vain reasons, but I was like, I have to be nicer to people, and it's stressing me out. Um, so I would say actively creating that joy, journaling, listening to soft noises while I'm working so that I maintain that balance. I have those little they're like humidifiers, but they blow up steam with like herbs and stuff. So I do that. So anything that goes into the sensory that brings balance and peace, that's really important to me. And then self-care, so really pouring in and nurturing myself. So whether that is, making sure that I have a lot of drink of water and stuff like that, that's so important to me. And then another way that I balance my passion, purpose, and profession is really maintaining perspective. You know, 4 years technically within a field, you're still entry level or junior. So really maintain perspective of I am here now and where I want to go in the future. So kind of strategizing in that way and maintaining the big picture of this being a business and a profession, and not take it so personal, and then also keeping in mind of the future and the bigger picture is another thing that really helps me um, maintain a balance.
I
And
mean,
not taking the work home, sorry.
don't take the work home. No, we don't do that. We leave that for the next day. But I love the sentiment of cultivating joy. Like, that is such a beautiful mindset. And then also being able to analyze and assess where you are right now, and being honest and realistic about yourself. I mean, fantasies and dreams are good, but you can't realize those fantasies and dreams until you actually put the footwork and the work in. So,
yes, and I would like to add that, like, part of being that introspective is knowing what you're not so good at. And we do that not to be a Debbie Downer and be like, oh, I suck, I'm terrible, whatever. But it's really to know what you're not good at so that you can invest that to yourself. So one of the things that I wasn't really great at first is communication, with the perspective of I wanted to provide so much information and make sure that I had my covering. So like I would write long emails, and then one manager that I had one time, she was like, this is too long. You need to be succinct. You need to provide short, uh, succinct and informative emails, because sometimes people can get overburdened or like over whatever by long email. And in our profession within international development, you sometimes communicate a lot with non-native English speakers. So if it's a little too long or too whatever, it could be overwhelming to them. So you have to create emails and communications that is digestible, and makes people motivated to respond favorably to you. So, so I took communication classes. I read books. I speak to other colleagues, networking in a way where I ask people, what do you wish to know, and stuff like that. That really helped me to tie into my communication and how I speak to folks in email and in person. And I would say that's really important part of introspection, is knowing what you're not good at so that it can empower you to make a change.
and on the subject of talking about what you're good at and knowing your skills and your talents and your attributes, and said, what do you believe to be the most valuable skill someone in your industry should have? And then just along that, some general skills that are also equally important.
I cannot stress enough self-awareness. um, you know, related to the other theme that I just said before, knowing what you're good at and what you're not good at. That's so important so that you can make that change. And then another skill is managing up. Um, Being, you know, in the lower junior and, entry level staff, it requires a lot of coordinating between the upper staff, the client, the stakeholders, the local civil society. So in order for you to do that, you have to manage up. And that really takes a skill. It takes a lot of the ability to be discreet, knowing what to say, when to say, who to say it to. Being in education and academia, never forget a title. Dr. So and so will always be Dr. So and so. And also, in that way, too, being understanding people's culture. So I work in the MENA region in Pakistan, and there you don't say the name Muhammad. In America, when somebody has the name Muhammad so and so, you call them Muhammad. But my Pakistani stakeholders, one time I accidentally called them Muhammad, and they're like, we don't do that. And just be like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know. So you call them by their last name. So understanding those key differences and creating a open space to people. So like being discreet in that way, and not, a lot of people don't have the patience for second, third mistake of something you've been corrected one time. So really listen carefully. Listen like your life depends on it. So if they told you one time they don't like being called Muhammad or another mistake, um, really make an effort to not forget that. Not misspelling people's names in email communication is very important. Just remembering those key details. And then another very valuable skill is that to have a customer service kind of attitude in the international development space. The funder, the person, the organization, the agency that funds your program is your customer. And therefore, you need to have a customer service attitude when you're dealing, speaking to your client, which is USA Department of State, sometimes a, you know, what do you call those people that privately fund people, those donors. So whatever they say, the customer's never wrong. They are always right. You have to go above and beyond what they've asked of you. Sometimes they could ask for a lot, and that's when you can go back and be like, well, in the contract, respectfully, this is what it says, but always keeping into the mind of one of the most important skill is that customer service. You wouldn't know that until you got to the field, but keep into the perspective that the money and the budget is the bottom line, and then therefore your donor is your client, therefore you're serving as a customer service to them. I would say those are the most important things.
I mean, I think that those skills and that knowledge is interchangeable and very versatile across every discipline. I mean, communicating, getting someone's name right, being aware of social cues, being aware of cultural cues. These are things that are, you would think that they're minimalistic or not as vital or as prevalent, but people notice the small things.
You do. And the reason why they're so important is because you have to maintain your relationship with these folks, especially if you want to, DC is so small. And therefore, if you build a reputation of one organization, it's going to go to the other. And people know each other. People went to college together, they go to happy hour together, they have friends in the field. It behooves you to create a really great reputation and pay attention to the small detail, like the name stuff, like the culture stuff. It's so important.
Very much so, very much so. So Sophie, what do you consider to be the most valuable skill to have in your industry, and then some other skills that are equally important?
Of course, the communication skill, like you said, the customer service skills, it's really, really important because, like Anna said, the goal is to create a relationship, and like in relationship is basically two human who wants to be seen in knowledge. So just the fact to address the person out with the right name, or knowing the culture, it's really important. So for especially in HR, you have to have a good interpersonal skills, because people have their own bias. People are different. The way you're gonna address a situation will be based of the relationship. So I will say that. Um, and of course, be really organized, and really be able to think out of the box, especially because it like the society change, culture change. So in HR, especially in HR, you have to think outside the box to see what is basically more like I said, like something that basically is gonna really make sure people are really comfortable with it. So it's really important to see what other direction we can go. So that's the three, four skills that I think is really important in my field.
And I completely agree. I mean, people will work with you if they feel like you're listening to them. People will work with you
Yeah,
if they feel like you understand them. And
yeah,
people will work with you if they understand what you're trying to do. If there's
yeah,
confusion and chaos, things are not going to
yeah,
go too well. And
yeah,
so
exactly.
I think that communication is vital
Yeah,
across both of your disciplines, and is
yeah.
something that should be paid heavily attention to and should also be invested in. So on the subject of communication, Sophie, how do you think that communication has changed from the time you entered the industry? And then
Mm,
also, how do you think that the current pandemic has impacted the way you communicate within your organization and the workplace?
mhm. Yeah, that's a good question. I think um, the way people basically you have to be more mindful. Everyone is stressed. You need to be straight away, like to the point. Everyone is stressed. Everyone is have anxiety with this current situation with the pandemic. So as as the first contact in HR, when people go, I mean, ask question, they tell me about the current situation. I have to be more mindful about the current situation. Some people have family obligation or whatever the case, but they live in stress. So I have, for instance, for me, I'm working for people who wants to go on maternity leave. Right now, they're really stressed when to find a daycare for the kids, and it really is gonna impact the way they're gonna work. So from there, I have to find strategies or ways or other services that was gonna help them to go through that. And to be more mindful, you have to listen. Um, listen is the I think there's a difference between listen and actively listen. So what I mean by that is you have to listen, but really understand what is the need and try to find a solution for the person that it or not they just not just listen just to just listen. So I think to be mindful and to have an actively listen behavior is going to really help um, to ensure that you keep this relationship with your client, and also the nature of my work, of course, change drastically because of this great situation. So, like I said before, having a good health hygiene is really important. And even though I'm not perfect, like some days I don't take my breakfast, or so it's just it really is going to impact my well-being, and of course it's going to impact my productivity, and of course impact my relationship with my clients. Because why? Because I'm a human. So it's if you go if I resume everything, it's really important to be mindful with your own self, but also with others.
No, I completely agree. Everybody's stressed. Even
Yeah.
the babies.
Maybe
The
just
babies are stressed. They
yeah,
want to go outside and play, and they don't want to wear
yeah,
masks.
yeah,
And we're stressed. We
mhm,
don't know when to go outside.
yeah, yeah.
We've been home,
Even with stress.
and
Yeah,
and so and we still have to work, and we still have to produce, and we still have to have
exactly.
reports.
Yeah.
And so being
So,
able to have that human decency, that courtesy to just, I think there's a, I completely agree. There's a very big difference between listening and actively listening. And then I will also raise that there's a difference between hearing and listening,
mhm, yeah,
because you can hear someone. When you hear, it's like they say something, you heard it in that
yeah,
moment, and
yeah.
then once they leave,
Yeah, you
what
just, yeah,
was said. But then when you actively listen and you engage, you ask
mm,
questions, you follow
yeah,
up, you're able to come
yeah,
to an understanding and base ground. So,
exactly, exactly.
so hence it, I'm going to raise you the same question. How has communication changed for you from the time you came in? And also, how has the pandemic impacted the way you communicate and the way that your organization communicates?
Sure. Prior to the pandemic, we help. I help manage 40 civil societies in Pakistan or around that. And so I was actively emailing, following up, and being very diligent, and I'm very organized. So I was actively, engaged and very, you know, and very push and pull with the client. But then after the pandemic hit in, I had to be understanding that even though, there is a program and a project and deliverables that must be met, because of the pandemic, there presents interesting situations, especially geopolitical within Pakistan. So I had to be very understanding and reach out to people in a manner that I'm not stressing them out and that I'm being compassionate. We don't know what their home life is like, because they're in Pakistan and I'm here. I don't know how this impacts them over there and the different challenges that is presented there. So I was, and especially when the pandemic was first starting out, like around March, April, and we were still unsure of where this was going, if we were able to go back to the office or to work or whatever. So I had to be a lot lighter and a lot softer and a lot more compassionate when responding and communicating with clients and with internal folks within the company. You have multiple of clients, it's just different level of priority. And with the stakeholders, I had to be, with the civil societies, I had to be a lot more understanding, a lot more lenient than before. And that was difficult for me because one of my goals is to be consistently high performer. And I like producing quality work. I take pride in that. And so, I can still produce quality work. It's just, it takes a lot more time because of being more patient with folks and having a little more troubleshooting that needs to happen. So that's one thing that has really affected with my communication. And then a lot more troubleshooting takes place just because of uh, the nature of the work and sending money over and tracking and for that. But because of the pandemic, a lot of our work was digital already. So that wasn't too bigly impacted. When we transitioned, it was pretty simple. So it's been pretty good, I must say. I'm really surprised by that. And a lot of the civil societies, we have after school organizations of schools that host English language teaching and career development within Pakistan. And they were able to transition virtually very simply. We bought phones and phone cards for the students, and they were able um, to because of the budget and stuff like that, they were able to switch online. They use Google Classroom, WhatsApp, and thank goodness we have the technology. I don't know if this were to happen in like early 2000, what that will look like. But because of a lot of these already, free digital spaces, transitioning online was pretty easy for us on the administrative side and for the field work. I was happy.
And I completely echo and second this motion. I mean, things are hard and it's definitely difficult, but technology has become very vital in the way that we communicate, in the way that we interact, in the way that we engage. And I'm also happy to hear that things are, although there are, delayed processes and maybe longer time frames, things are still progressing and change is still being made. So that's really great to hear. So now we're going to get a little personal, and we're going to talk about how you all are doing, how you're coping, how you're practicing self-care, both as an individual and as a professional. So in your personal life and in your professional life. So Entset, how do you practice self-care?
Oh, so much. Earlier on, when I was still into the profession and it was very stressful, I got a personal trainer because I needed a healthy outlet for the stress. And So I still, to this day, because of the pandemic, I'm not working with a personal trainer, but I exercise and walk a lot. I drink a lot of water. I talk my friends' ears off. So those are some ways that I self-care, and I really try to also have a lot of me time. So kind of isolating myself and journaling and thinking about where I'm at and where I want to go and strategizing a lot. Another form of self care that I try to do is that I try to make sure that I diet and get enough sleep and just those things. And career wise, is that I invest a lot in myself. I feel like that's part of self care, kind of not just, the nice like pampering things, but also the investing in myself for the future. So like I'll take communication classes online on edX, or like other lectures that I can get my hand on. I try to cook a lot of healthy meals. I've actually gone vegan for a few since June, so almost 3 months, and I try to really do a lot of self care. It takes a lot of time, but I think it's so necessary, especially in pandemic, and also because a lot of job is stressful. Managing up is stressful. Managing and creating relationships with people, because people have biases or agendas, or some people are just more difficult to deal with also. So it's these things are so necessary, and having that boundary also really helps. Is that and then I read a lot. I read about past uh, people that I think are very interesting. Like I just read a book about Cleopatra, and then I read books about, just different mental things like trauma and anxiety and different things that I find interesting. So I try to deal with that and listen to white noises. That is very calming. So I try to cultivate joy in that way with my self care, have it be introspective, where I can strategize to take classes and stuff like that, but also have it create joy with white noises, reading books, exercising, different things. I think it's our divine responsibility and right to self care.
Oh, you know what? I like that. It is your responsibility to practice self care. You need to figure out what works for you. You are important. We are all important. We matter, and so in order to be our full selves, in order to contribute and to participate, we need to start with ourselves. And with that, Sophie, how do you practice self care?
Wow, self-care, I'm gonna be, again, I'm honest, it's really new to me, because back then I was really work focused, so I actually forget about myself, like forget about, take care of my time. For me, I just do activities or just go out. Of course, with the pandemic, it's quite complicated, but right now for my self-care, I'm trying to really focus on my skincare, or like trying to jog outside, and now I'm in a cottage with my friends, just to enjoy life, and because I actually, since I finished school, it's like I always, it's just gonna work. I was just going to work, and I didn't have time for myself, and didn't take time to see, okay, what do you want? How do you want to see your life in like 5, 10 years? So sometimes we just caught up in this kind of capitalistic system where you're just talking about like, okay, income, and then it's like, okay, but you only have one life to live. So that's from that. I think it's a question of being more mindful about, for me, for instance, and take care about my mental health. So right now I'm gonna see a therapist. I think it's good to just to have some time to let it go. And I think an external help can help. So that's why I decided to just go with a therapist and just make sure like my eating habit, I review that, trying to eat more food, drink more water, and do more exercise. And in my professional life, I think the first step for me for my to feel really empowered in my job is to just to remind myself that I matter and um, that I have valuable skills and they are important. Sometimes we just devalue ourselves, and I think I see the tendency, especially with Black people, we tend to just see, okay, maybe I'm not able, I won't be able to do that job, but actually you are. It's just a question of being more confident with your own skills and to understand that actually invest maybe 40K in this bachelor or in this master. I need what kind of investment, and I have all my experience matters. So why I'm not able to actually showcase that? And I think it's the question to just realize that, okay, yes, I do have those skills and they're valuable, and know your worth from there. So that's my like my own care for me for current regarding my professional life. Just know my worth and be very confident with my skills, and say when I apply for a job or I chat with people, I know what people, I'm really comfortable with what I'm saying. So that's one thing. And of course, investing from some learning and continue learning and my communication skill and doing some courses. I know like in my job, we have like a platform where there's a lot of internal learning programs. So you can just take courses. So I try to leverage that. And of course, you can go study at university, just do some certificate, just to make sure you have other skills on hand, and of course invest in a personal and a hobby. Maybe I think sometimes we forget about, like, we need to find a hobby that, of course, just make you happy, and we always focus ourselves on not a hobby that can create an income, but the part of the just to have fun is really important too. So be more mindful about that. So that's the two things I think is very important. Yeah.
I think that you are both spot on, and I am personally gonna incorporate and use some of your self tips. I think that those on the call and those that will watch this video later will equally tune in, sign up, and incorporate some of your self-care tips. And it's very important to value yourself, to know your worth, to see that you are important, because people
Mm-hmm.
will treat you the way that you treat yourself. The way that
Exactly.
you present to the world is what the world will present to you. And sometimes
Yeah.
you'll present yourself to be awesome and the world will still treat you like you're not awesome. But don't forget or be deviated from the truth, which is
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you do have the skills, you do have
Yeah.
the talents, you
Yeah.
do have the abilities, and
Yeah.
you are capable. You are in your role or in your position because you are
Yeah.
competent.
Yeah.
Not only are you competent, but you are capable. And with that, we're gonna dive into some advice. What advice would you give to someone that is interested in going into your industry or in your field? Sophie, we're gonna start with you.
Um, Especially in HR, I think the first thing, and like I will say it again, just know your worth. Know that all your skills you are accurate, whether it's not even in HR matters, because typically like a job, for what I see, some typically a job can be learned on the job. Like it's not like you don't have knowledge. You just you have to know what this job is, and when you're gonna have the job, you're gonna actually learn it. So I feel like sometimes we're so overwhelmed by that and forget that, okay, like, yeah, I had a bachelor, I went to school, I have a mind, so I'm sure you can do it. It's just a question of you present yourself in a way that you can prove that to the recruiter that, okay, yeah, I do have the skills, and I'm really able to make sure I can prove it, and I'm really open for feedback. So I think that's one thing I will say, to be really mindful how you address your skills with the recruiter, and to never settle down. And also I just realized that maybe 2-3 days ago, that not all opportunities are for you, in the sense of it's not because you see an opportunity that it's the right one for you. I mean, sometimes we see opportunity, like say, and think, okay, like I need to take that because that's the only thing I can have. But I think it's just a question, like, if you know your worth from the beginning, you can have better than that. So for me, especially in HR, it's in the question of be able to communicate. what is your skills, and to network with with people. And also, I will say another advice to grow in my field is to, especially if you're currently in the organization, is to really leverage all the learning program in your organization. If they're kind of free or they're paid by your group most of the time. And yeah, so I think that's the three things you should be focusing if you want, especially HR. And of course, you can get like some accreditation and go into a master. But in HR is it's the internal personal skills. Like if you the way you treat people, that's the way they're gonna treat you. So if you're someone who we are mindful with your words, your the policy, you're able to communicate well with the stakeholders or partners, the managers, you're gonna really succeed in HR.
I mean, I completely agree and I echo and second the motions that you stated. At the core, at the foundation, at the basics, it is knowing what you have to offer. It is knowing how to communicate what you have to offer. And it is also being able to acknowledge and understand what you don't want and what you are not going to accept. And with that, Henset, what do you, if someone was interested in coming into your field and your industry, what would you say to them and how would you advise them? And what did you do?
I would say that I echo everything that Sophie said, but I really encourage people that want to get into international development to really start from the place of accepting things as they are. When I first came into the field, my background was in public health, and I always knew I wanted to work in an international space. So I got into the field and found that majority of my colleagues had IR International Relations degree, and because I'm observant and I noticed the reason why this makes sense is because majority of this field is diplomacy at the end. Although it's health, education, civil society, employment, empowerment programs, the objective and the goal is diplomacy. So I can fight that or I can accept it. And I really encourage folks to accept it. So come into the perspective whenever somebody tells me fresh out of college, grad school, whatever, I try to tell folks to really accept the things you can't change. So accept that this is a diplomacy field, understand that nothing's personal, this is all business. And with that, really learn and understand your conflict management skills. That's going to come in very handy. You're not going to go through your professional career without having conflict. It can be a righteous one where it's like, well, the contract says this, therefore we can't honor your request. That can be a form of conflict, or something minor at the office or whatever. So conflict management skills is very important. And when you're applying to jobs and different things, accepting rejection as part of the formula, you're gonna hear a lot more no's than yeses. One time when I was looking for work, I probably interviewed 12 times before I landed a position that I wanted. And so that means I got one yes and 11 no's. So the rejection is just part of the process. It's not personal. You may not be a good fit. That's another thing that I would like to stress to folks, is that those soft skills that you will cultivate, communication, conflict resolution, understanding that this is a diplomacy program at the end of it, that's going to help you have your soft skills so that you could be a good cultural fit to the company. A lot of folks that have a lot of degrees in education and academia, they sometimes aren't a good fit for companies because of these lack of soft skills. And they're so important, and they're sometimes more valued than the technical skills that you don't learn until you get into the field. That way of communication. I would say that to fresh people that are still in college, really take up communication. It is a very important skill. And if you have to minor in something, or you need to take electives, really invest in that. So I would say that's something that I would really advise people that want to get into international development. Another thing that I really advise people is invest in yourself. So if you want to have longevity within the field, for example, taking a project management certification course and passing it and getting that license, invest in yourself and picking up a foreign language. If you can learn French or Arabic, Russian, those hot languages within the field where there is a need for diplomacy, that's going to set you apart from people, other folks. Like if you want to work in francophone countries in Africa, you won't get the job unless you speak French. And not just speak it in language, but academically. You have to read, write, and speak the language, and investing in that and learning those languages will really set you apart than the other applicants and give you longevity within the field. And then never stop learning will be another one. When I was looking for jobs, I think one of the things that I learned is that I would go to recruiters and ask them, what I know you, and you know, we live in Washington, D.C., and I always used to ask them, you get a lot of qualified applicants. What sets somebody apart from others? And it's that desire to learn and to change. You know, being junior people and working in regions that are dynamic and always changing, is that learning to accept these things and learning different skills, adjusting. Even if you're good at a skill, improving the skills that you're not good at, making the strategy to improve it. So always that openness to learning, and software systems. That's another thing that really sets you apart. If you're on the junior and administrative level, you need to learn how to operate a lot of financial softwares, a lot of data keeping softwares. So being open to learning those things, of course, learning how to use the Microsoft stuff and the Google stuff, the Zoom stuff these days too, is really important. So it is those three things. So accepting things as they are, which is really important. Learning things, being open to it, whether it be software, languages, other stuff, and investing in yourself.
You both provided invaluable feedback. I mean, coming into an industry or even being in an industry and trying to work your way up or transfer or even seeking opportunities for leadership or for development, you need to be able to learn. You need to be able to research. You need to be able to assess and analyze. And I think that the advice that you shared will be very fruitful. So before we go today, do you all have any last minute remarks for us?
I would say, if I may, never stop networking. Networking is not just to help you land a job or a reference, but it's also to help you get advices. Like if you ask people what makes people high performing, or what do you think has helped you advance higher, or what is something that you wish you knew before you got into the field. Those important questions that you set in with the intention is really important. And then being aware of your digital presence, whether that be in social media. LinkedIn is very important. See your LinkedIn and resume as a marketing tool where you're marketing yourself as a brand to this company to make sure that you're a good cultural fit. So I would say always keep in mind of what you're portraying and always network.
Sophie, do you have any last minute remarks for us?
Yeah, as Ernest said, be able like to have a good presence online, especially in this now age. Have a LinkedIn or maybe create the own page and participate to other projects. I think to showcase that you're involved in other projects with your employer, it's actually a good way to say, okay, I have other passion. It can maybe translate to other project maybe in the organization we can be participating. So I would say that, yeah.
Wonderful. Well, with that, we have come to the conclusion of our Saturday afternoon spotlight with Entset and Sophie. I greatly appreciate your time, your
Thank
talent,
you.
the knowledge that you shared with us, and it was a pleasure having the opportunity to learn more from you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
No problem. And thank you to everyone that tuned in. Stay safe and enjoy the rest of this wonderful weekend.
Enjoy
Okay,
your
bye.
vacation, Sophie.
Enjoy your vacation, Sophie.
Thank you.